Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's session, we are going to cover one of the most requested topic, which is Splunk queries for SOC Analyst. Whether you are preparing for a SOC interview, working on real world incident response, or just learning Splunk, this video will give you some most powerful Splunk queries that every analyst should have in their toolkit. Okay, so today's session is completely based on like what queries you will use to detect some of the attacks, how you will use those queries in Splunk. So the Splunk queries basically I'm talking about into this session. So we are not just learning about commands. We will also understand what each query detects, why it is important in threat hunting, and how to use in security investigations. So you can grab a notebook or pause the video when needed. So you can write down all the queries or what they mean or why you will use those queries on detection. So without further delay, let's start. Okay, so first, this is a 30 days SOC analyst series, and in this series we are basically learning about the SOC L1 scenarios, like when you are preparing for SOC L1. So what skills do you need for the SOC L1, like what is threat intelligence, or what is malware, or the SIEM tools. So the basic structure you will need to get the job for SOC L1, we are basically talking about this. And today is day 23. 22 sessions is already happened. You can check out all the sessions on the Zero Day Vault YouTube channel. You can scroll it down and go to the playlist. On the playlist, you will find out the SOC Analyst L1 complete series with hands-on, and in which you will find out all the 22 videos. Okay, so this is a complete SOC series. I will try to cover the SOC L1 topics in 30 days. So this is day 23, and I am your host. My name is Sumit Jain, and particularly I am have experience of 11 plus years and in ethical hacking, BAPT, red team operations, or security analyst. So you are basically attending this session on the Zero Day Vault YouTube channel. Okay, so let's talk about the queries one by one. So I have around 100 plus queries, and in today's session, which is part one, we will talk about 30 queries. Okay, 30 most important queries for Splunk. So basically I grouped all these queries into multiple categories, so it's easier to remember for you, like the authentication and login queries, the privilege escalation detection queries, SSH VPN or remote access log queries, network and DNS based detection queries, file processes, malware behavior, email phishing or data exploitation, brute force, recon, and threat intel based detection, or web application, or like SQL injection level attack detection. Okay, so I basically grouped all the queries into multiple categories which you can easily understand. So the very first query we have is the query to identify failed login attempt. Before we proceed this, I basically created this particular slide in order to like the query name, like the query for failed login attempts. Then in the bottom side, you will see the query. So this is your query, which is source type equals to auth, then authentication failure, then pipe. We are adding multiple queries using pipe. So pipe, then stats or count by user, then again pipe, and then sort hyphen count. So this is the Splunk query which you can use in Splunk to identify any failed login attempt. So what is basically failed login attempts? Whenever you are investigating any attack in using Splunk SIM tool, so this particular detection will help you to identify the unsuccessful authentication attempts. Suppose any attacker is basically trying to uh, log in into your whatever portal you have, or any protocol you have, or any services you have, or any systems you have. So if the attacker is randomly trying multiple attempts to log in into your system, so they might be using the dictionary attack or the brute force attack. In that case, in your logs, many unsuccessful attempts will be logged, right? Many unsuccessful attempts will be logged, or your on your regarding your cloud services, if you have VPNs, or if you have applications or systems or servers. So failed login attempts will be logged, and we can basically identify how many failed login attempts are happened. According to that, we can easily analyze if that particular part of the application or the cloud service where the attacker or the hacker is basically trying to get in, so we can easily mitigate it. So this particular detection will help you to highlight unsuccessful authentication events across system applications, VPNs, or cloud services. A spike in failed login, especially from the same IP, like on the same IP you are seeing in the log, like in the same IP, they are repeating many or logged many failed login attempts. So that means they are targeting multiple accounts, or occurring outside normal hours, can indicate some brute force attack based scenarios, password spraying, expired credentials, or attempted unauthorized access, making it an important early warning signal for account compromise. So you can easily investigate with if like a brute force, if your task is to identifying, like if the brute force attack is happening in your system, or any credential based attacks, or any unauthorized access. So this query can easily help you to detect it. So hopefully you understand the purpose of this query. Okay, the next query we have is the query to identify potential security threat. The second query we have, and you are seeing the query which is source type access, then method we have when we making the request, so get request or post request, so method is post, then the status which is 200, then the rejects field raw password, and that's the query you can use in Splunk. So this particular query, this detection looks for multiple high risk indicators across different log sources, such as unusual logins, suspicious processes, process executions, abnormal network traffic, malware related file activity, or communication with non malicious hosts, right? So you can easily, by correlating these events, it helps the analyst quickly spot early intrusion, compromise, or insider activity, when even when a single event alone may not seem malicious. So you can use that particular query to identify any potential security threats related to unusual logins, or suspicious process executions, or any abnormal network traffic. Then we have the query to identify privilege escalation attempts. So if you are following the cybersecurity journey, so you might know about what is privilege escalation. So privilege escalation is basically a type of attack in which attackers is basically trying to uh, escalate the privilege they have. Suppose they are logged in somehow with a local user or low level user, so they might escalate their privilege by changing that user to the high level role or high level user. Suppose an attacker in your system, they basically entered as a local user, and using the local user permissions, they are basically trying to become root. So we can easily identify the privilege escalation attempts with the help of this query. So this particular query is based on Linux. So the source type Linux, like then su where you user root and root, right? So this, if in the logs anything appeared with this query, so that means someone is trying to uh, escalating the privilege. Okay, so this particular detection looks for activities, like whenever when you run this query, this detection basically look for some activity in the logs where an user is basically processing or processes or tries to gain higher privilege than originally assigned. If a user is assigned with low level role, and if he is trying or she is trying to gain higher privilege than the originally assigned privilege, or switching to a high level account like admin account or root account, or running some or executing some tasks as sudo or run as, or some executing some high level or high privilege binaries, modifying some security settings, or exploiting misconfigured services, so we can easily identify with the help of this particular query. This particular queries also help you to prevent lateral movement. If you follow the, if you are into the offset part of cybersecurity, so you might know about the lateral movement, the persistence, or system compromise. Like full, what is full system compromise? What is lateral movement? Right? So lateral movement is basically like when you are using a compromised machine to gain access to the another system or another network, right? So we can easily detect with the help of this query. Then we have the query to identify the failed SSH attempts. SSH is a protocol, as you might know about it. Or like, what is the main purpose of SSH? So using SSH, we basically trying to access the system using remote, right? Using remote connection, we basically you trying to gain access with the help of SSH protocol, right? So if anyone is trying to connect with your system or server with the help of SSH, but they are not having the correct password, or maybe they are not having the right key. There are two methods to connect with SSH, which is password based authentication and key based authentication. So an attacker or an privileged user is basically needed these two things to connect with the SSH, using SSH protocol to connect with your system, which is key or password. So if an attacker is not a, or attacker is trying to connect with the SSH without having the correct key or password, then in the logs you will logged with multiple failed SSH attempts. Okay, so the failed attempts, we need to identify it, and that will be your query to identify the failed SSH attempts. Okay, so in this is the query: source type Linux secure, failed password 4, then stat count by source IP, then sort count. So this particular detection is basically focuses on unsuccessful SSH authentication attempts, which often indicates brute force, again password sparing or unauthorized access, but with the help of SSH, right? And SSH is a protocol commonly used in Linux system. I'm not saying like it is only used in a Linux system or Unix system, but commonly used in Linux or Unix system. So that's why this particular query, I'm selecting the source type as Linux. Okay, so by tracking, though by identifying repeated multiple failed login SSH attempts from the same IP or using same account or a short period of time, so an analyst can quickly identify like an attacker is trying to guess the credential before a successful login occurs. So maybe he's trying to launch the brute force, maybe he's trying to launch any dictionary attack, or maybe he's using some additional password cracking tool, or maybe Bob Suite or some Hydra or Kane Enable or John Ripple. So whatever technique they are using, they are trying to gain access of your system with the help of SSH authentication, but they are not particularly have the correct credentials. So they are trying, and then when they are trying, the in the logs multiple failed SSH attempts are logged, and you are identifying to prevent the attack, or you are identifying to particularly take additional response. The next we have is identifying the successful SSH attempt. In previously, we are basically identifying the failed attempts, and next we are identifying the successful SSH attempts. And now you are thinking like why we need to analyze the successful attempts, because it is necessary. See, how you know or how you will categorize it, like if a successful SSH attempts occurred on your system, so the traffic is coming from a legitimate user. There is a chances ना कि किसी अटैकर को भी आपका SSH credential मिल सकता है, और attacker is also trying to connect with your server, so a successful query will be registered. So we are also identifying the successful SSH attempts. Okay, आ रही है बात समझ में? So this particular detection also list successful SSH authentications to your system, so you can see who logged in from where and when. It's useful for access, auditing, and baseline building, and to quickly spot new sources IPs, unusual geolocations of our access. Suppose you are only allowing your uh, users to access the SSH in the particular time, but you are seeing a activity of successful SSH attempts on off hours, suppose in the night. So that might be the indication like someone is particularly trying or taking some advantage, right? So or some key versus password changes, these all are the potential signs of compromised credentials or unauthorized access. So as we are processing further, you are basically seeing like how these queries are helpful for mitigating or detecting multiple attacks. Because if attacker is trying to do something on your system, on your server, on your cloud or applications, the query with the activity will be logged, and according or by querying or by identifying the activity in the logs, we can easily rectify like what type of attack can happen. The next we have is identifying unusual network traffic. Whenever a application is used, so network is basically used, and analyzing the network behavior from different IPs or destination IPs or source IPs or the size of traffics, so we can identify like if any unusual network traffic is created. So this particular query, which is source type, then network traffic, and then again stat some bytes as total bytes by source IP, destination IP, and then a query which is the total bytes, which is 10 lakh. Okay, so this detection basically highlights the network behavior that divides from baseline sudden, such as sudden volume spikes, like if the volume is suddenly spiked up, the rare protocols, the protocol that are not used in your system but are using right now and traffic was created, new or risky external destinations, unexpected east-west lateral movement. It also surfaces periodic beaconing, large outbound uploads, or traffic outside business hours, which can relate or which can the potential sign of malware C2, data exfiltration, or uh, compromised host probing the environment. The next query we have is identifying suspicious processes. What is process? Process is something like whatever service you are running in your system, so a process will be created, right? And we can running a query to identifying such suspicious process. Without process your system cannot work, but if something suspicious was installed or running in your system, so you can easily identify with the help of this query. So this query is particularly based on Windows, and the search type is source type is processes, and then the search type, so I'm basically uh, searching some processes with the help of this query, which is searching isaws.exe, svchost.exe, the explorer.exe, then stat count by user, stat count. So this particular detection will flags processes that don't fit normal endpoint behavior, like some unsigned binaries, execution from user writable paths, old parent-child chains, right? If you are into reverse engineering or if you are into a malware, so you might know about all these processes. So it basically helps the surface malware staging the post exploitation by highlighting the abnormal command execution, the abnormal command lines, unexpected network beacons on processes without unusual or persistent activity. The next query is identifying the brute force attack. So this is the Splunk query for identifying any brute force attack in your system. So if any attack will be launched on your system, application, or cloud, a log activity will be created, and in the log activity you are basically using Splunk to identify it. So that will be the query, and this particular query will help you to surface the repetitive failed authentication attempt, because if the brute force is launched, then the failed or successful attempts were created. So we are basically identifying it, and against multiple accounts or single account within a short time window, a common sign of brute force or other password spraying activity. So if you are seeing high volume of failed logins from the same IP or the different IP or from different regions with a short period of time, or from same IP across many users or against a single target account, so you can easily analyze, like the attacker is trying to guess the credential of your system or whatever portals you are using, which have the authentication mechanism, right? Then the next we have is identifying the privilege escalation attempts on Windows system. Previously, we talked about the privilege escalation attempts on Linux system, but this that will be the query on Splunk to identify the privilege escalation attempts on Windows system. So that will be the query, and this particular detection is look for activities where a user or process are trying to gain higher privilege, same like the Linux, or than originally assigned uh, privileges. Okay, so the use of run as, the unexpected UAC bypass attempts, the execution of process with administrators system rights, or modification of privilege activity registry keys or services. So you can easily identify some of the common attacks with the help of this, which is lateral movement, persistence, or full system compromise. So hopefully you are understanding those query means, or why we are using those queries to detect some of the attacks. Before continue, before continuing, if you are enjoying this video, so gives a thumbs up, or make sure you like it. And if you haven't subscribed it yet, make sure you subscribe and drop some comments. So basically, before continuing, I want to show you something. Like, you can easily access all these session data with the help of this session tracker. I have created a session tracker which you can find in the video description. So if you see, look down the video description, you will find out the session tracker. And let me quickly tell you the benefits of this session tracker. So basically what happens, like if you go through with the session tracker, so I have structured each and every session, and you can see the topics, you can see the links of that particular respective YouTube videos and the resources link. So in the resources link, there will be a drive link available, which redirect you to a drive. In that drive, which is available for you, in that drive you can get those session slides, like these session slides which I'm basically presenting to tell you, to teach you, to train you. So you can easily get or see those slides, right? So these slides are available for you, and you can easily help or make some notes, or prepare for your interviews, or take help for your work. Also, some reading materials are also available time to time. So I whatever reading resources I found, or I will create, you can easily found it here, and you can download it. Some assignments are there, the assignment solutions are there. Okay, so that will be helping, very helpful for you, and you can easily find out those important links in the description of the video. You can also check out or follow me on LinkedIn. On the LinkedIn, I have posting continuously uh, relate the content related to our cybersecurity community, and you can also get the update about the latest batches or the new announcements or free internships. So we basically announced a project-based cybersecurity internship, which basically which going to start in the 10th of November, and the last date to apply, which is 8 November. So we are basically, you can apply by scanning this QR. Okay, so you can find all the content on the LinkedIn. So make sure you check out my LinkedIn profile and follow there to download or to uh, read all the document I have uploaded so far, like the checklist for bug bounty or OT penetration testing checklist, the try hack me rooms, or the certificate cheat sheet, the nmaps tasks. So everything was out there. And if you want to get training, one-to-one mentorship, then you can check out the Skill Horizon application. We have some premium courses available in Salesforce, in ServiceNow, or in cybersecurity. Or you can contact me on the Telegram group also for your doubt discussion, for your any queries. You can check out the WhatsApp community as well, so which basically helps you. So apart from the YouTube, you can connect me with on Telegram, you can connect me on WhatsApp to solve your doubt, or if you want to join any personalized or one-to-one mentorship, or uh, uh, penetration testing batches or the bug bounty batches, so you can connect me. Let's continue our session. So now this particular query is the privilege escalation attempts to Windows system. Okay, So the next query we have is the identifying suspicious PowerShell activity. What is PowerShell? So PowerShell we have in um, Windows or Linux bot. So if you want to analyze any suspicious PowerShell activity, so you can use this particular query in Splunk, which is source type wind event log, and then Microsoft Windows PowerShell or operation event code 4103 and then evil script log. And this particular detection is basically focuses on unusual or high risk PowerShell execution. Like in the PowerShell, if any particular encoded commands, any remote script downloads, privilege escalation attempts, or if the PowerShell is being launched by any unexpected parent processes, since the attackers basically often abuse PowerShell for living off the land attacks, malware staging, the post exploitation, spotting abnormal command line arguments, network calls, or hidden obfuscated execution is critical for early threat detection, right, on Windows system. So we can easily identify the PowerShell, suspicious PowerShell activity. The next we have is unusual file access. So if the system got compromised or if your files are being accessed unusually, so we can easily detect it with the help of this Splunk query. So that it will be the query, and this query is basically helping, or you are basically looking for any user accessing some files or folders or shares that they are not particularly or not normally interact, but now they are interacting. So that's why uh, uh, the activity will be logged, and you are basically identifying it, that those activities. So accessing some confidential directories, some finance or some uh, HR data, engineering repositories, or the large volume of files in short time. So this particular query will help you to uncover the compromised accounts, the privilege misuse, or data staging activities, or insider threats. The next query we have is network port scan, right? So if someone or attacker is basically trying to scan your ports, so you can, the activity will be logged and you can easily identify that activity with the help of this query. So this detection basically highlights the hosts that are rapidly scanning the multiple ports or multiple IP addresses in short time period. The port scanning is common information gathering or reconnaissance technique that is used before exploitation, because if an attacker wants to access your system or wants to exploit on your target, first they will scan your port. Once they identify if some ports are open, what type of services you are running, what version you have, according to that they will find out, they will find the correct exploit, or maybe they will design or write a exploit and then further attack it. So before attacking or before exploiting it, they are particularly scanning your network ports, and we can easily identify those activities with the help of this Splunk command. The next we have is email activity, any suspicious email activity. So emails are very important in the organization. So this detection, which basically surfaces or highlight inbound or outbound emails that shows abnormal risky characters such as mismatched display names, spoofed domains, unusual sender reputations, mass sending behavior, or unexpected attachments. So basically you can prevent those compromised internal accounts before the user interact for any harmful content, or maybe some malware delivery can happen, or the business email can compromise, or you can easily flagged with some phishing attack. Okay, so to prevent those attacks we need to identify the email activity. If you see some suspicious behavior, like as I mentioned, so you can easily rectify. The next query we have is potential data exfiltration. If any sensitive, important file was downloaded or data was exfiltrated or data was transferred to any particular uh, remote location, or not, you are not aware of that type of destination, any cloud storage services like S3 or Firebase, right? So we can easily detect it with the help of this query to identify the potential data exfiltration. See, when you running those queries, the result you will achieve, all the results are not harmful. Some might be the normal flow of your traffic, but you need to identify the unusual traffic. So this query is basically detects for the large data transfers, outbound data transfers, or to any external or non-whitelisted destinations, cloud services, or any rare protocols. Or using the rare protocols, they are using those protocols like SCP, DOR, or DNS tunneling or FTP. So basically, it helps the SOC analyst to detect the insider threats, the malware exfiltration, or the compromised accounts. The next query we have is failed VPN attempts. So in an organization, VPN is must. They are using it for different kind of purpose, but any particular failed VPN attempts can logged, and you can identify with with this query, because any unsuccessful VPN authentication attempts which can also lead to the account compromise, right? So you can identify if the failed VPN attempts activity was there in your logs with the help of this query. So in this query, if anyone trying to brute force or trying mistyped passwords, some expired credentials, or password spring, the credential stuffing attacks, right? So you can basically detect it. The successful is also important. So in VPN, in SSH, in FTP authentication, so the failed attempts or successful attempts are both important. You need to identify both things, and then you need to compare side by side if the successful attempts is created with the legitimate user, or if it is coming from outside of your network. So that will be the query. The query to identify successful login attempts from unknown IP address. So the login attempts are successful. They are basically know the how to log in into your system, or maybe application or cloud. But if that attempts was coming from a new location or maybe unknown IP address, so that might be the indication like someone is trying to access, or maybe someone is trying to compromise your account with the brute force or insider threats. Possession hijacking may be possible, credential theft may be there. Then if you are operating any web application or mobile application, then you heard about the SQL injection. So the identifying the potential SQL injection, because using the SQL injection, the attacker is basically wants to compromise your databases by launching the malicious queries or SQL statements to connect with your SQL database, and then basically dumping your data or seeing or dumping your tables or columns. So if you want to analyze any potential SQLi attack, so that will be the query. And this query particularly detect the requests that contain the malicious SQL payloads or SQL patterns. So you can easily prevent the potential SQL attack. Then unusual file extension. So this particular detection with the help of this Splunk query, you are basically detecting the file extensions. Those file extensions are created for uh, used for creating, downloading, or executing with suspicious behavior, like execute extension .js, .vbs, .bat, .dll, ISO, zar, temp, dat, right? So these extensions are commonly used in malware staging. If someone is trying to uh, install malware in your system or in your server, so they are basically using those extension based files. So it's important to detect it. The next we have is phishing attack. So the query to identify the phishing attack. So that will be the query. So basically checking any authentication failures, like checking the DNS records of SPF, DKIM or DMARC, or checking any signs like the sender domains or the mismatches, or any like payment type of theme subject, like the urgency, right? The short URL, the risky or suspicious or malicious attachments, right? So these all are the indication of the, or all are the sign of phishing. So you can easily identify with the help of this query in your logs. Then the query to identify the traffic to known malicious IP address. The traffic are coming from the non-malicious IP address, and the like the botnet or the phishing, spam, Tor, the exit nodes. So this particular query can help uh, the hosts that are communicate with IPs listed in your threat intelligence feeds. Then the query to identify unusual login times. एक होता है unusual login attempts, but एक होता है unusual login times. So the login times is basically like the time that our user is not normally working, like outside of normal working hours, like late night, early morning, weekends, or holidays. So that might be the indication of compromised, maybe shared credential. Maybe your organization employees sharing their credential with, or shared the credential with someone else, and you are uh, tracking with a potential account compromise or data leak. Then the query to identify the privilege escalation on Linux system. So that will be the query we already talk about with the perspective of Windows system. So this will be the on Linux system. Then the brute force attack against a specific user. So you are basically focusing on the repeated failed login attempt on a single user account with a short period of time. So this particular query or this particular indication will help you to identify the brute force, the credential stuffing, password spraying. Then the unusual DNS requests. So DNS, you might know about what is DNS protocol. So we are basically identifying, surfacing any DNS patterns typical of tunneling C2, may unique subdomains or to the same base domains, right? So you can use that query. Then the next query we have is spare phishing attempts. You already know about that attack type, which is spare phishing. So in this spare phishing, so we are basically the suspecting the emails typical of like the scoring features, like the sender domains or display names or to mismatches, risky attachment, similar to the phishing emails. Then the potential malware infections, if you want to observe any malware type of activity happened in your system or not. So you are using that query to checking the logs of any suspicious activity. So this particular query will flags all the processes, the network activity uh, of malware execution from any writable paths, the user writable paths basically, in which you can or attacker can easily write something, or any risky command line patterns, commands were changed, right? Then the unusual user activity. So this query is basically used to detect the abnormal behavior of a user account, like whatever uh, behavior you have for your user, but they are behaving something different, like accessing some file, accessing something, downloading some data, uploading something that they don't normally impact. So maybe they are those account was compromised, some insider threats, or the privilege misuse. Okay, so these are the 30 queries we have for today, and I have some more queries which you will need in your SOC journey, and those queries, believe me, those are very helpful for your journey. So I will continue talking about on those queries in the next session. So in this session, we are talking about the SQL, so Splunk queries for SOC Analyst to identifying some activities in the logs, which is unusual activity, the potential malware infections, the spear phishing attempts, the DNS requests, brute force specific users, privilege escalation on Linux system, on Windows system, the unusual login times, the non-malicious IP addresses, the phishing attacks, unusual file extensions, potential SQLI attempts, or unknown, the login attempt from unknown IP addresses, the VPN attempt, successful or unsuccessful both, the data exfiltration, the suspicious email activity, the network port scan, the unusual file scans, file access, the PowerShell activity, DNS tunneling activity, abnormal user activity, privilege escalation on Windows or Windows system, brute force, suspicious processes creation, unusual network traffic, the SSH attempts, successful or unsuccessful both, and the privilege escalation attempts, security threats, failed login attempts. So these are the 30 queries, but I have some more, which is we will continue in the next session, which is going to happen tomorrow at the same time, 11:30 a.m. So make sure you will read all those queries, and if you have Splunk installed, Splunk Enterprise is installed in your system, if you have some logs available, so you can run those queries and identify if some data you will get it. Okay, for the resources I already told you, like you can check out the session tracker. In the session tracker I already mentioned with a structure way the day wise classes of ours and the resources link, and in the resources link you will check out the drive. In the drive you will have all the resources, and in the session slides I have uploaded like day 20. So I'm going to upload 21, 22, 23, 3 days slides more today, so you can easily have all the activity, all the queries in the slides, and you can read that out. You will find more resources here in the notes section, so I'm going to upload it by today or tomorrow. uh, all the links are available in the video description, or you can check out the channel description as well. So all the important links are there, like the Telegram channel or the Instagram or GitHub, or if you want to download some of the documents for free, so you can check out the Gumroad application and my Medium blogs, basically, where where I write the bug bounty write-ups, Twitter or LinkedIn. So you can check them out. You will find multiple resources there. Also, do not forget to subscribe the channel, check out the other videos. In on the channel there are multiple useful videos I'm continuously uploading. Like recently we are running the SOC series, but the Bob Suit series is also happening, and I have uploaded some member only videos, like if you are into penetration testing, so the practical network penetration testing. These are 11 sessions, and in the 11 sessions I basically talked about with the complete hands-on how you practically penetrate the network with the help of MSF console or other tools. Okay, so these are the videos which are available for members only. For that you need to join the membership, which is very cheap. You can try out the bug bounty workshop videos are also members only, you can check them. Now if you have any queries, so you can drop it here. I will answer it. Any particular question you want to ask, so you can drop them here. I will answer it. Okay, so let's take some comments first. Hello Cybersec. Hello Monica. Thank you Toby for joining the membership. Hopefully you will find some useful videos for your journey. Hello Pawan. Hello Shri Bhuvan. Shubham. Yes, Shubham. I'm going to complete this series as soon as possible. We have a 2 days session based on SOC Splunk queries. So that makes day 25. And after that, I'm going to take some 5 or 6 more sessions related to your mind map of SOC. And then we will finish this. And after finishing this, we are going to launch a new series which is based on bug bounty and the beginner cybersecurity or ethical hacking. So make sure you will share it on your channels, on your networks to take the advantage. Arun is saying पेन टेस्टिंग पे भी प्लेलिस्ट चाहिए या एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी. Yes, Arun, I'm basically launching the series by the 10th of November, which is on the next week. So first we will talk about all the pen testing topics, and then after the completion we will talk about the active directory. Because if you want to go to the active directory, you should need to learn about the Windows Server first. So if you have the knowledge of Windows Server, or if you haven't the knowledge of Windows Server, so try to learn the Windows Server first, and then we will talk about the active directory. बट द पेन टेस्टिंग सीरीज वो बहुत जल्दी आएगी. मे बी 10th of November से हम उसको चालू कर देंगे यूट्यूब पे, तो वो आप चेकआउट कर सकते हो. ऑल्सो सम ऑफ दी पेन टेस्टिंग वीडियोज आर मेंबर्स ओनली, सो हैव if you join the membership, so you check them out. Also, I'm going to upload some few more videos which are already recorded, so you are going to see them soon. Any more queries or questions? Hello Arya, thank you for joining. So Arun is saying like uh, he know about the Windows Server. So what do I next? So Arun, you can contact me on Telegram. So I will give you some like you know about the PowerShell commands. So if you know about the Windows Server and the PowerShell commands, you can start your AD pen testing with the help of some basic AD checks, and after that solving some AD based labs. But if you do not know about the PowerShell commands, so first you need to learn about the PowerShell commands, and after that you can move with the AD journey. So tell me in the comments like how you will rate the session, if you liked it or not, if you need any more series just like this one apart from pen testing, so you can let me know in the comments. And do check out the other videos. If you want one-to-one mentorship, you can contact me on Telegram or WhatsApp with for pen testing batches, for bug bounty batches, ethical hacking, Kali Linux, networking, SOC. Like SOC series is also going on here. The bug bounty, the bug suit tool with complete detailed roadmap, right? So I have various uh, learning content for mentorship, so you can check out. Arun, everything cannot be added here, like uh, YouTube have some restrictions. We cannot properly demonstrate the attacks here because of the restriction. So as far as the API testing concern, I will try to add some part of the API. But yeah, the member only videos will be there. I have recorded 5 to 7 videos related to API testing, so it will be a 15 part series. So as soon as I will recorded all the videos, they will be uploaded on the member only. So Delight and Joy are saying the pen testing and ethical hacking both are same. Not particularly. You can say it like they are same, but they are not. In ethical hacking, you are basically trying to learn about the uh, everything about the cybersecurity or attacks like the Wireshark or the sniffers, the spoofing attacks, or the phishing attacks, or the how password breaks are happened, how system hacks, how Wi-Fi attacks. But in pen testing, you basically picking up something like web application or cloud application or something like that, and you then trying to test it with some methodologies or some checks. Any further, any comment, any further query you have? So check out all the Splunk queries which we discussed today, and I have 75 more queries related to Splunk, which we will cover in 2 more sessions. So you will have around 100 plus Splunk queries for uh, different activities, detecting different activities to prevent some of the common attacks. So then we will move with our next topic. Okay, so this is day 23 with the SOC Splunk queries, and thank you everyone for joining it. Arun is saying cloud pen testing रहेगा उस playlist में. The cloud pen testing will be in separate playlist. So is it safe to install Kali Linux in our system? Delight and Joy is saying yes, it is very safe. You can install it uh, in virtual machines if you are thinking, or if you are hesitating, like it is not safe or you read somewhere. But if is that so, you can install it in the virtual machines, so it will not impact on your main hardware. But it is safe. It is just like an operating system. Kali Linux itself not doing anything harmful. You are doing something harmful with the help of Kali Linux. So it is a operating system. So do not fear with that. Okay. So I don't seeing any new comment here. So thank you everyone for joining it. अपने कीमती समय में से वक्त निकालने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. एंड ऐसे ही मीटर खींच के रखो, और वीडियो को लाइक करते रहना, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करो, फॉलो करते रहो, और मैं मिलता हूँ आपसे नेक्स्ट वीडियो. टेक केयर, बाय बाय.